As information serves to educate members of the public as well as promote democratic empowerment, access to information then facilitates people's participation in public affairs. Now, the 1992 Constitution of Ghana guarantees to everyone under Article 21(1) the right to information subject to such qualifications and laws, and subject to that, qualifications and laws are necessary in a democratic society. So the government of Ghana in 2003 prepared the first draft of the Right to Information Bill. The bill meant to give effect to the constitutionally guaranteed fundamental right to information to every citizen, has also generated a bit of controversies here and there. To that effect, a group is organizing an event to highlight some of the concerns they have. Our man Kwabena Chenchehene Boateng is joining us from there with some detail. Hello, Kwabena.
Kemini.
What can you tell us about this group?
Well, let me, even before I say that, I must say that you have given actually an elaborate summary of the Right to Information Bill over the past years and all. But the situation here is that it's actually a workshop, and it's focusing on rekindling and reigniting the debate as to why it has been a bill all this while, for some reason, for some strange reason, it has still not been passed, as to whether it's a deliberate attempt by certain people, as some are claiming that, the politicians do not really want to give particularly journalists full access to certain information. If not, certain things might get into the public domain, and it may in the end not be in their best interest. So we are here to actually rekindle the debate and try and seek some answers. Now, over here, we have quite a number of people are represented from academia, from industry, from quite a number of people are represented here, and they are all here to actually share thoughts on this and find a way forward as to what really the situation is and why it has not been the case that we have a right to information law, but rather a bill.
Right, Kwabena. So I'm going to have you hold on. Let's come live to the venue of where the coalition is holding the workshop, and listen live as Dr. Mantia is...
Yeah, Dr. Stephen Mantia. Yeah.
Steve Mantia, I got that right, from ISODEC, is speaking.
Incidentally, these two companies have all sold the stake. This is, I'm not saying something untoward had happened, but this is what happens, especially in instances of fronting. People get into the business not because it is their core business or they are interested in it, but they get into it because they need to have a cut, an undeserved maybe. I'll leave that to your judgment. I do recognize that the owners of these companies may have played a role in bringing these investors into this country. And so they need to have a certain compensation. You may call it sweat equity. But because these things are not done in an open manner, and because there is not information provided citizens, it leaves us to only speculate in what must have happened. And this could lead to problems for our democracy and economic governance. In recent times, we've had some contracts passed by Parliament. A number of these block assignments were passed under certificate of urgency. And it leaves a lot of us wondering as to what has happened in this country that warrants the quick sale and approvals of oil blocks. But when you juxtapose that against the fact that we are in the process of passing a petroleum exploration and production bill, which, if passed, will commit this country to open competitive bidding as against the negotiated deal type arrangement that we have, then you can only conjecture that the certificate of urgency passage or approval of some of these contracts is a deliberate step to escape that particular bill which is in the offing. Again, a bigger worry we have is the fact that there is non-disclosure of beneficial owners of these blocks, and therefore provides the cover for fronting as well as rent seeking. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have issues of lack of adequate information on how we manage the environmental fallouts of natural resource extraction. Usually the law requires that the proponent of the project will undertake an environmental and social impact assessment, following which the proponent will develop an environmental management plan. The environmental and social impact assessment is usually subjected, and that's a requirement of the law, to public hearing. But because of lack of information to the host communities, the people who are likely to be affected by the project, a lot of these public hearings are reduced to assurances of job opportunities and how the particular natural resource project is going to transform lives overnight, adding to the factors of that create unrealistic expectations and which become recipes for future conflicts. But more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, many do not get to see the environmental management plan. They are not publicly shared. And so, even the affected communities are not in a position to ascertain whether the company is going by the environmental management plan. And given the human resource and capacity challenges that confront our regulatory agencies, it creates the opportunity for companies to get away with murder. Now, sometime this year, the Environmental Protection Agency approved for the Jubilee partners the flaring of 500 million cubic feet of gas every month till somewhere in October. But the fact is, we're not told what the mechanisms for monitoring the compliance with these dispensation was. And so, to date, citizens do not know whether the companies have actually fled just what they were required to fled or have fled more. Next slide. Ladies and gentlemen, revenue and expenditure management is also one issue that we have some concerns in terms of accessing information. But I'll observe quickly that here we have made some progress by providing in the laws that govern the oil and gas sector elaborate disclosure provisions, which has led to recent revelations by the Public Interest and Accountability Committee on how we have not made the best out of some of the expenditures we've made in the oil and out of the oil and gas revenues. I do not need, ladies and gentlemen, to convince you that the reason most mining communities are in arms today is that while so much wealth is generated from the mining communities, the ordinary people become ever more impoverished. Livelihoods are lost, environment degraded, and the community sense of security shattered, often with little or no compensation. These people need to know how much the companies are paying, how much comes to them, and what the monies are spent on. And because I co-chair the National Steering Committee of the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, I'd like to share with you some revelations from the Ghana EITI reports with respect to how revenues that accrue to mining districts have been spent over the years. and which, in my view, partly explains the lack of development in these districts. The reports have revealed a tendency to spend gold revenues in gold mining districts largely on recurrent expenditure items, salaries, allowances, stationery, painting of buildings, etc. And very little, and in some instances nothing at all, on development of capital projects. Interestingly, almost all the mining districts spends the bulk of their money on garbage, on bola. And I guess you can guess why. If I tell you I spent 1 million Ghana cedis on a bola and that the bola was this height, and you go and the bola is not there, how do you verify that indeed the bola was this height? So that is a perfect opportunity for abuse of gold revenues. And all these have happened without any information to the communities, the beneficiary communities, in terms of how monies that belong to them are being spent on their behalf on people who have been assigned authority to make these decisions. Why should citizens be supportive of efforts to legislate the right to information in Ghana? I think with my presentation so far, I've been able to amply demonstrate how access to information could help us as a country to get better deals from our natural resources. How access to information helps us to work with our government to make the best decisions in terms of what policy options are available to us as a people. We definitely, as a people, no matter our professional backgrounds, have a duty to support the right to information bill that is currently in discussions, and we need to ensure that it indeed is in the shape that will serve the purpose for which it's being considered for passage. We should support the right to information legislation because we need information to be able to exercise our right to participate in decisions regarding the use of national resources. This, in my view, is key to good democratic governance. We need information, or the right to know bill, because it endangers accountability and reduces the risk of waste and corruption. We need it because it fosters democratic debate and promotes national ownership. And I emphasize, promotes national ownership of national development initiatives so that we don't change policy direction, government after government. Once we collectively own it, we'll stick to it and ensure that we derive the needed benefits of those policy initiatives. Again, we need to support the right to information bill because it improves macroeconomic management. And finally, but not the least, it ensures equity in national resource allocation. Hope these will convince us to join hands in this campaign. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Steve Manteyao. A round of applause again for him. We are still live on your Joy News channel on Multi TV, and this is the RTI Coalitions Forum that is supposed to help all of us to, be at the same page as far as the campaign towards having an effective RTI law is concerned. And if you're just joining us on television, we're coming to you live from the La Palm Royal Beach Hotel, and you just heard Dr. Steve Manteyao of the ISODEC giving us a presentation that gingers all of us up to be concerned about why it is important to have an RTI law. And I suppose that as we listen to him, we do not only pay attention to central government and information that ought to come from central government and the secrecy that a lot of the things are often, shrouded in. But we are thinking about local authorities, agencies, that we have every right to have information about what is going on that concerns our basic everyday living, but which information now is at the discretion of someone who is sitting at the front desk or someone who is the CEO, and that ought not to be the situation. It is important, like he said, for us to have a law that obligates them to give us those information. We are thinking of the intelligence and secret services. How accessible are they? We should be thinking about our transport sector. What do you know about the civil aviation's, due diligence about the entities that come in to fly planes that are how many years old? We have clearly no idea. We just get on them and we surrender our lives to God. That's not good enough. We think of the justice system, how accessible is information. Also, we ought to be thinking about the environment and the EPA, how are they making information accessible to us? The health, system, very, very important. How much can we access information at these places? Local government, education, private companies, even the information ministry and information departments that we have all across the country. Talking about health, until recently, until the doctors about, I think, last week, Friday or Monday this week, announced after their meeting that they do not have any terms of engagement with their employer. I was shocked to the bone that they now are demanding it. You would have thought that the one who is employing them would have been the first to give that terms of engagement, so that you can demand of them service that is in compliance with the terms of engagement. I mean, that for me is scandalous. Thank you very much, Dr. Steve Manteyao. And like I just mentioned a while ago, we are live on your Joy News channel on Multi TV, and we are coming to you from the La Palm Royal Beach Hotel. And this is an engagement by the RTI Coalition with various professional bodies, hoping that in the end, all of us will be charged to ensure that sufficient pressure, healthy one, is brought to bear on the need for the quick passage of an effective information, access to information law. Shall we at this point welcome Mr. Akoto Ampao. He's a very accomplished lawyer in this country, needs no any introduction. He's been with the NMC and has been a very pivotal part of this process. Ghana's RTI bill and the RTI Coalition's advocacy. Let's hear Mr. Akoto Ampao.
Thank you. Thank you, Samson. Good morning, everybody. And then good morning, listeners on this Joy FM or Multi TV audience. First of all, let me make the point that I find today's meeting a very exciting and heartwarming one, because this is the very first time that the RTI Coalition has been able to bring together professional bodies, this range of professional bodies, on a critical issue of governance and development as the RTI. We all know that today's world economy is run on information and communication. That's what runs the modern world. The world is run on information and communication. All manner of instruments, equipment, all manner of tools now are programmed by way of information, and they operate based on the information that is put in them. So we have computers, which play such a critical role in our modern life. Is based on configuration of information. So information is at the heart of our modern society. It is therefore not by accident that Article 21, 1F of our Constitution provides that all persons, and let us emphasize the point, all persons, it means that any person who is in Ghana, not necessarily just citizens, it says all persons, not all citizens, all persons have a right to information, subject to such limitations and qualifications as are necessary in a democratic society. Now, I think it is important to draw attention to the foundation of this right. The foundation of a right to information in a democratic society, in my view, is anchored around the sovereignty of the people. And you will see that the very first article and first clause of the Ghana Constitution upholds this fundamental principle. It says the sovereignty of Ghana resides in the people of Ghana. It doesn't say it resides in the president. It doesn't say it resides in parliament. It doesn't say it resides in the armed forces. It doesn't say it resides in the bar association. It doesn't say it resides in the business community. It says the sovereignty of Ghana resides in the people of Ghana, in whose name and for whose welfare the powers of government are to be exercised in a manner consistent with the provisions of the Constitution. So all public institutions, the only reason why they exist is the people. They exist for the people, they exist to service the people, and they do not exist for themselves. The executive of this country, the president, has the powers that he has, not for himself. He has the powers that he has in order to deliver service to the people of Ghana. The public institutions that we have exist for the people, because of the people, and not for themselves. And therefore, any information that they hold or create or that comes into their custody, they hold in the name and for and on behalf of the people of Ghana. It's a very, very important principle to understand, that everything that all public institutions do, they must be doing them for the good, for the welfare, and in the name. That's how the Constitution reads. In the name and for the welfare of the people of Ghana. So when they do things in their own name or in the name of their cronies, or they do things against the welfare of the people of Ghana, they are committing a major breach of the Constitution. It's a complete illegality. And this, in my submission, this principle of sovereignty, which every democracy upholds, is at the heart of the right to information, because the information that public institutions hold, that the president has, he has them by virtue of the principle that he's holding them in the name and for the welfare of the people. And therefore, as servants working in the name and welfare of the people, all public officers, all public officials, all public institutions hold information in the name and for the welfare of the people. They are agents of the people with regard to the information that they hold. And therefore, they have a duty of giving out, disclosing that information to the people. And the public also has a right to demand the information that they hold, and they are under duty to give out the information that they hold, except for limitations that are necessary. That's what the Constitution says in Article 21(1). Limitations that are necessary in a democratic society. So the limitations are not limitations that will be convenient for the government of the day. The limitations to its duty to disclose information should not be and cannot be limitations that are convenient for the public institution that a member of the public goes to for information. That the person there says, oh, if I give you this information, you create trouble. That is not the law. You can only limit disclosure if you can demonstrate that it is necessary in a democracy. And what that means is that it is necessary in the public interest that the information should not be disclosed. That is the only limitation on the right to information. Now, I think it is important, if we understand this conceptual foundation of the right to information, or the philosophical foundation of the right to information, to understand that what a right to information legal regime seeks to do is to introduce a major paradigm shift, a major fundamental paradigm shift in the relationship between those referred to as governors, those governing the public will, and the people. It's almost like a silent revolution if it is done well, and if you have an effective regime of right to information, because it then turns the paradigm of relationship from the colonial times and largely up till now. Those who wield the powers of government are seen as the masters, and the people actually see themselves as the servants, and they more or less accept those who wield powers of government as masters, the bosses, the big men and women in society. What the right to information law seeks to do is to turn this system of the big boss is the master, the people are the servants, to turn it upside down and to make the people now sovereign.
Right, we'll bring you more on that in subsequent broadcasts. So the Right to Information Bill Coalition is holding a workshop to explain some concerns they have with the current state of the RTI bill.